Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of English in Practice. It's Kareem with you, your English teacher. As learning English is not just about improving your speaking and listening skills, today we will look at some mistakes that people make when they write in English. These mistakes can affect your writing negatively and thus give a bad impression about you, especially if you're trying to send a formal email and this email is full of some writing mistakes. Or even worse, these mistakes can cost you a lot of marks, especially if you take in an English exam. Let's say the IELTS, TOEFL, or any English exam that you need to take. Let's look at some of these mistakes, learn how to avoid them. Keep watching. The first mistake on today's list is the subject-verb agreement mistake. It's one of the mistakes I see when I mark my students' writings. The subject-verb agreement mistake happens when we have a singular subject but a plural verb, or vice versa. What does that mean? Let's have examples. Example 1, Jake and Paul doesn't like fast food. Example 2, the number of gamers are increasing globally. These two examples show you what the subject-verb agreement mistake looks like. Now, let's look at the first example. In the first example, we have two people, Jake and Paul. These two people are the subject of our sentence, which means we have a plural subject because we have two people, Jake and Paul. Now, since we have a plural subject, we expect to have a plural verb. But what we have in this sentence is the verb doesn't or does with not. So basically we have a mistake. The subject, which is plural, doesn't agree with the verb, which is singular. That's why we call this mistake subject-verb agreement. We have a plural subject and a singular verb. To fix this mistake, we can do one of two things. We can either fix the subject and make it singular, or we can fix the verb and make it plural. So, to fix the subject, we can say, Jake doesn't like fast food. Or we can say, Paul doesn't like fast food. If we want to keep the subject plural, but we want to fix the verb, we can say, Jake and Paul don't like fast food. And now we have three correct sentences. Let's look at the second example, which, to be honest, is confusing to many people, and let me show you why. In this example, we have the number of gamers are increasing globally. Now, the subject in this case is singular, but the verb is plural, because the subject in this sentence is the number of gamers, and the main subject, of course, in this phrase is number, which is a singular noun. Well, the verb is plural, are. Are is the verb to be that we use with plural subjects. So we have a mistake here. We can see that the subject doesn't agree with the verb. We have a singular subject and a plural verb. So what can we do to fix this sentence? We can either fix the subject and make it plural so that we have an agreement between the subject and the verb, so that we have a plural subject and a plural verb. Or we can fix the verb and make it singular so that we have a singular verb with a singular subject. Let's fix it. We can say the number of gamers is increasing globally. Now we have the subject, number, which is singular, and then we have the singular verb is. Or we can say the numbers of gamers are increasing globally. Now we have the plural subject, numbers, with a plural s, and we have are, the plural verb. Another mistake that we have or we see in writing is what we see in sentence fragments. A sentence fragment is a group of words that looks like a sentence, but it's not really a sentence. What does that mean? Let me give you three examples that will show you what sentence fragments are, and then we understand why they are mistakes and how to fix them or to avoid them in the first place. Example 1, running towards the forest fast. Example 2, when I grow up. Example 3, the process of creating more robots. Now, these three examples are all mistaken, are all wrong because they are not full sentences. All of these examples, the ones you see on the screen right now, are called sentence fragments because they look like sentences, but they are not sentences. I mean, we can say such things in speaking. We can use these things in speaking, and it's okay. And in the right context, everyone will be understanding us and we will be making sense. But in writing, these are called sentence fragments, and they are wrong. Sentence fragments are mistakes in writing that you need to avoid. Why? Let's look at the first example. Running towards the forest fast. This is wrong because we don't have a subject. I can ask you a simple question. Who is running towards the forest fast? Or who was running towards the forest fast? We don't know because the sentence doesn't tell me or doesn't give me information about the doer of the action of running towards the forest fast. So basically, if we are missing a subject, we know that this is not a full sentence because we know that the simple sentence in English must have at least one subject and one verb with, of course, a complete meaning in order to be called a simple sentence. This one is not a sentence because it does have a verb, running, but it doesn't have a subject. So this is called a sentence fragment because it looks like a sentence, but it's not really a sentence. It's missing something. The second example is also a mistake, or let's say is also wrong. It looks like a sentence, but it's not really a full sentence here. Yes, we do have a subject, which is I, when I say when I grow up, and we have a verb, which is grow up. So yes, I do have a subject and a verb, but do I have a complete meaning here? Do I have a full meaning? No, because when I say, when I grow up, and then what? What happens when you grow up? What will happen when you grow up? So you have something missing in the meaning. We don't have a complete meaning in the sentence. That's why it's called a sentence fragment, because again, it looks like a sentence, but it's not really a sentence. The reason this one is not a sentence is that it doesn't have a full meaning. Now, how do we fix it? Now, to fix it, we can do something very simple. We need just to add anything to this sentence, mainly an independent clause to add meaning or a complete meaning to this fragment. So we can say, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor is basically a new sentence, an independent clause, but the whole thing right now is what I call a complex sentence. And now I have a full meaning. So it wasn't a full sentence because it was missing the full meaning or the complete meaning. After adding the independent clause or a group of words, now I have a complete meaning. In the third example, or let me say the third example itself is a sentence fragment because the third example is the process of making more robots. Yes, you do feel that there's something missing, right? So this is not really a sentence. It looks like a sentence, but it's not, because we do have a subject, but we don't have a verb. To be more specific, the whole thing is a subject, and we don't have a verb. So we basically have a phrase. We don't even have a clause. The process of making new robots or more robots. So in this case, I do have a subject, but I don't have a verb, and of course, I don't have a complete meaning. So that's why this one is called a sentence fragment, because it's missing a verb and a complete meaning. And it does look like a sentence. Now, how do we fix it? We simply add a verb and a complete meaning. So to fix the sentence, we can say, the process of making more robots or new robots is bad. Now I have a subject, which is the process of making more robots, and I have a verb, which is the verb is, and then I have a complete meaning, or I completed the meaning when I used the word bad. The mistakes we talked about today are not the only mistakes we find in writing, but we have more mistakes that we will discuss later on other episodes. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Thank you very much. Stay safe.